Hello and welcome to this edition of the Potomac Local News Podcast. I am Potomac Local News founder and publisher Uriah Kiser. Joining us on the podcast today is George Stewart. He is the Democratic nominee for the Gainesville District Supervisor seat in Prince William County. Mr. Stewart is a Navy veteran. He's a longtime Gainesville resident and a financial consultant who recently became, as I just said, the Democratic nominee for Gainesville District Supervisor. He's been active in the community with issues and now hopes to bring his perspective to county leadership. Mr. Stewart, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So you and your opponent, we'll just say his name right now, Patrick Carter's. He's the Republican in this race. You are the Democrat in this race. But this race so far has been who dislikes data centers the most. Right. Well, let's just start there, because you're on record saying that you're not the world's biggest fan of data centers, and Harder's has a reputation of not being the world's biggest fan of data centers. So
Right.
tell me about yourself, your candidacy, and importantly, is this race, like I said, about who dislikes data centers the most?
Well, a little bit about myself. So I'm New York City born and raised. But Nova has been like a second hometown since my parents adopted me at the age of 3. My uncle, actually my godfather, who I'm named after, George, lived down here. So the three of us, my mom, my dad, and myself, we were in the car back and forth up I-95, back and forth. And so about a year before my wife and I got married, we were talking about how much we loved the area. And, we found this really special place at Dominion Valley here in Haymarket, or right outside of Haymarket. But yeah, we love it here. We love raising our 4-year-old daughter here. And we love having our family come visit. It's a very special place that it's made for people. Yeah, yeah.
And so you have a 4-year-old, so it sounds like she's about to be at school. Mine's 5, so she just went to school this month for the first time. So you'll be there next, it sounds like, next year.
Well, she's still in daycare.
Yeah, so well, so you are raising a family here, so we'll say that. And you've been, are you married? Do you have
I am married. Yep. My wife Drea and I, we've been married. We're going on 6 years this at the end of September. And
congratulations.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Good,
Yeah.
good. So you're a family man, and you've been in Northern Virginia, that's your home. And the home that in Dominion Valley, where you call home, is being slowly surrounded by these data centers. And these
Hmm.
things are a key topic, not only in this Gainesville District Supervisor race, but at the Board of Supervisors in general, right? There's not a
Hmm.
meeting
Yep.
that goes by that we don't talk about these things. And so we've seen in the past special election that put late Supervisor Bob Weir into the seat, it was about data centers and opposition to the data centers. And we saw a lot of crossover vote where Democrats would come over and voted for Weir
Hmm.
to give him the win over his Democratic challenger, Corinza Summers, back in 2023.
Yes.
And today, fast forward 2 years later, we're still talking about data centers. We're still having this heated debate, and so where do you stand on these server farms that so many politicians who are not used to them in counties that we're seeing in rural areas just jumping on board, just getting into it, unlike Prince William County and Loudoun County that have been into it for the better part of 10 years now. Where do you stand on the continued proliferation of these data centers in the county?
We have to immediately stop anything that's about to come online. We have to see how we can even stop that, right? The overwhelming majority of people that I speak to in Gainesville do not want them. It's the first thing that comes out of their mouth. I was at National Night Out earlier this month, actually. And it was the first thing. data centers. The second issue were data centers, and the third issue was data centers, right? I loved Bob's approach because he was just a flat-footed no. He made it very simple, and I 100% agree with that. Um, I think the digital gateway is a huge mistake. It's going to, the very first meeting I ever went to as a resident here was about the Rural Crescent. And of all people that I ended up, this was before he became county supervisor. The person I spoke to outside of Battlefield High was Bob, and invited me to come to the Haymarket meeting. And I thought I could get on the council there, but I don't technically live inside the city limits of Haymarket. But they data centers do not belong where people live, work, play, worship, etc. Right? They belong literally out in the middle of nowhere. And if there's one thing that we have a lot of in the United States, it's out in the middle of nowhere. So the data center that does the credit card processing for Apple or Apple Pay, which I love to use, it's in North Carolina, literally out in the middle of nowhere. And I think that's a responsible way to do data centers. More so, though, than just data centers, it's the ancillary stuff that comes along with data centers, and specifically in this case, power usage, right? One thing that I don't like are the overhead power lines. The EM transmissions are a public health hazard. So Toms River, New Jersey, like we forget, like we have like a very short memory about how these overhead power lines were giving children glioblastomas, which are brain tumors. And we don't want that here. So for me, for who I am, I'm not a I'm not a thoughts and prayers person. I can't vote for somebody or vote for something that's going to kill children and then go and like see the family, oh, my thoughts and prayer. No, what I am is we're not going to deal with that problem at all because I'm going to vote against it. It's the
Yeah.
long-term approach, right?
So a lot of people are asking at this point when we talk, and you brought up the digital gateway, which is
Hmm.
this massive 37 data center complex that is proposed outside of Manassas National Battlefield Park, and right now we're covering the legal wrangling that's going on, and now the board of supervisors has up until September 15th to decide whether or not to appeal a decision by the Prince William Circuit Court to essentially halt that project due to what the court says was an improperly advertised meeting in 2023 that led to the approval of that data center project. So the court
Hmm.
says we're going to halt this, but the board asked for a stay, and this news came down yesterday. The court upheld its decision to halt this project,
Yep.
despite the county board of supervisors asking for a stay. Now the board again has until September 15th to decide whether or not to appeal. So a lot of people are asking, who is the board working for, right? They have heard the case. The developer came in, they put their 2 cents in, they got their approval, they went through the process, and the court tossed it out. And a lot of people are questioning, where is the alliance? Does the board work for the people who most say overwhelmingly disapprove of this project, did at the time of its approval in 2023, and still do so today? Or is
Hmm.
the board in the pocket of land developers and data center developers? Where do you stand on? What do you think about that?
You know, I'm gonna, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, gun to my head, it's a duck, right? I think that the constituency here is smart enough to make up their own mind, right? However, what the board should do is completely abandon the project. It's over, it's done. They're spending all of this money, right, in the appeals process, $1 million. I can think of a million things to do in and around the county, in and around Gainesville, right? Here where we need that money for the constituents. If the constituents want the data centers, they should have the data centers. The overwhelming majority of constituents do not want this. It's the only thing people talk to me about. I mean, there are things that are like a distant second over the horizon second, right? But no, like what should happen at the next meeting is they need to shut it down. They need to shut it down.
We'll
You
see if
took a shot at it and it's over.
We'll see if they do. So we've established that there's very little daylight between you and your opponent on this issue. It looks like you guys agree on this pretty much. So
Yeah.
let's talk about other issues, right? Because
Hmm.
every time budget season comes around, we talk about whether or not we're spending, we're investing, we're cutting, we're giving taxpayers money back. This county has done a lot of, we'll call it investing over the past 10 or so years. And they've improved parks, they've improved schools, they've given more money to to improve the delivery of government, right,
Hmm.
across the
Hmm.
board. There are some on the board who annually will cite Yesli Vega. Each year, she calls for lower taxes, lowering the tax rate, lowering the overall tax bill, which continues to rise year over year, despite all of the investment, the promised investment from data centers that were promised to alleviate taxes. That, however, those bills continue to rise. That is a fact. So when it comes to tax relief for residents and homeowners who foot the bill for the majority of operation of government, for the homeowners property tax,
Hmm.
or investing and continuing to raise those taxes to invest in the government, invest in schools. What's the right play, and where will you stand come budget time?
Got it. So there's a couple of things. And as a financial professional for like the last 30 years, I looking over spreadsheets and things like this, you can see fuzzy accounting. You can see where, the interest of the shareholders are above everyone else, right? You know, the rate has to be lowered, right? For for residential residents of the entire area, of the entirety of Prince William County. The rate has to be lowered. So the multiple, and also you don't have to really increase the value of the structure itself the way it's done, right? So that people can feel a real relief, right, on property taxes. The other piece of it is, I data centers account for about 30%, to the bottom line. That needs to get up somewhere 37, 38%. The loopholes that exist, you put a bank or like a government institution and, like have it handle data. No,
Which we saw in Manassas. A bank is now the operator is operating or leasing space, or however they're doing it. They're operating out of a data center in Manassas, and now the city cannot tax that data center
that's
because it's financial. And we just found that out after the data center came online.
that's absurd. That's absurd, right?
And
Banks
and,
are
and
quick.
and not to cut you off, but that
Yeah,
is, to be fair, that is the city of Manassas. That is not Prince William County. The two entities, the two government
I
bodies
I,
are separate. There's a
I
line,
got you.
but
I got you.
so
But
for those out there, we're not saying this is in Prince William County. When we be
right,
clear before we start to get the hate mail coming in, but it happened right where we
yep,
live.
yes, and it's a foot in the door. It's a foot in the door. It's literally a gateway, right? And look, a part of Manassas comes into Gainesville, right? And uh, it's it isn't fair. It's not. Forget about fair. Life isn't always fair. But what it's not is equitable, and it's not in the right spirit. It's not being good neighbors and having that loophole stay open. The stewards who allow that to continue. That I hope that they have the temerity to shut that down swiftly.
We talk about the homeowners and the data tax. Sorry, the homeowner tax rate, which again accounts for the majority of funding for county government,
Mhm.
because the county does not have a robust commercial tax base, right? And
Absolutely.
so I think the hope there at some point was data centers would help bring that in. But as I said earlier, we haven't seen the homeowners tax bill lowered due to the fact that data centers have come on board. So aside, data centers aside, Uh, you're a financial consultant. You're a smart numbers guy. What can the county do to improve its tax base commercially? And what
Mhm.
kind of what other than data centers? What would you go for if we're going to stop?
So, right. So you hit the nail on the head with a word that you used. You said hopefully, right? Hope is not a strategy, right? Hardcore facts. This is what we're going to do. Things laid out and incrementally measured and making sure you're hitting your break points and moving forward. That's how you get things done, right? So the tax rate on data centers needs to be adjusted. There needs to be, especially in our comprehensive plan out to 2040, there needs to, that needs to be more structured in such a way where residents can hold the board accountable to say, hey, listen, on this year, this is going to be the rate for residents. This is going to be the rate for data centers. We also need to be doing more, and this is kind of circling back to zoning. We need to be doing more when it comes to getting in non-big box store retailers,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
We, and when I say we, I'm talking all 50 states. We become addicted to big box stores, right? There's something very special to reiterate about living here that you don't get in other places, and big box stores don't fit that character. The Walmarts, the Home Depots. I'd rather see an Ace Hardware than a Home Depot, right? Where I grew up, I would go to Ace Hardware with my dad. We knew the whole family that worked there, right? So, and bicycle shop, this type of thing. There's a neighborhood feel to it, and you feel more ownership. That person that owns the Ace Hardware, that's your neighbor. The
So the
person that
county
owns
needs to do more to spur entrepreneurialism
not
and
just
grow business.
entrepreneurialism, but let's be clear, data centers don't create long-term jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
They
No.
don't. It's 12 people that work there around the clock, and these places are massive. That's not a thing for like supporting the local tax base by creating jobs. Yes, you are literally for creating jobs.
Yeah. And you said that the tax rate needs to be adjusted on data centers. So adjusted up or down? Will you push
Upward,
for a higher?
upward,
Yeah.
upward. We
Okay.
need, like I said, we need to bring what we need to have what the data centers are bringing in. We need to get that initially dialed up to 37, 38% over the 30% that they're already
Yeah.
paying. Like if they came in a shady way, nobody asked for them really, not the overwhelming majority of constituents, right? And there were promises made, and it's not really panning out well. And then now they want to make more. They want to make the biggest data center farm on the planet here.
Yeah.
This is not the place for that.
It's so interesting to me because these data centers, and more a shocker, we're back to data centers now. These
Yeah.
things have created such weird political bedfellows because at the state level, the Governor Glenn Youngkin, who's a Republican, is all for these things, has supported the creation of them, has worked hand in hand with Amazon to expand their footprint here in the state, traditionally, but locally, it's the Democrats who have on the county board, especially under Ann Wheeler, under the previous board, pushed for more data centers, while traditionally the conservatives, the Republicans on the board, wanted to preserve the land and preserve. It's as I said, strange political bedfellows,
Yes.
and so should you get on the board, you're going to be up there with some Democrats who are on record supporting. I mean, there are some on that board who have never seen a data center they don't like.
Yep, that's true. And my job is to have them see the light. My job is to lay out a plan fiscally that has them get off the get off the dole, if you will. Get off that train, right? There's no cheese down that tunnel, and if there's any cheese there, it's rotten, right? Like it's that's not the way to do it. There I don't dislike data centers. I don't like the execution again where people live work, go to school, pray. That's not, it's just not appropriate, right? Um, I want to see other type of businesses that come into the area that create, not that a data center job isn't a real job, but the type of jobs that we traditionally have that are the backbone of the American economy. Most jobs are people employed by small business. And I want to see those small businesses come. I want to see them thrive. And we get there through zoning, the proper zoning, where we're not just tackling attracting those type of businesses, but we're also attracting like, mixed use residential, that sort of thing. I was in Reston Town Center today, and I'm thinking to myself, why can't we have something like this in
Yeah.
in Gainesville proper,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Well,
Or even in the Sudley corridor, the space right next to the mall is prime for that.
yeah, yeah, and we are seeing some proposed redevelopment there at the mall there, with
Hmm.
some addition of some new homes there, and sort of filling in some of the parking lot space, if you will, there at the Manassas Mall. As we wrap up
Right.
here, I'm going to give you a chance here to tell our audience what. How do you differ from Patrick Harders, who has been on our program before, has talked to
Mhm.
us? Tell us how you differ.
Well, first of all, I'd like to, Patrick, if you're listening, congratulations on your win. I think that Patrick, I think he's a good person, right? I think that um, that he's a guy I would hang out with. Now, there are some issues where we don't necessarily see eye to eye on. He would not like to see the revenue sharing agreement continue with schools, right? I, I as an investment professional, the best stock symbol I know of is KID,
Mm,
kid, children. If you invest in children, if you invest in schools, that's going to pay off in the long run in several ways. First, you're going to have a well-educated workforce that's going to attract businesses to the local area. That's number one. Number two, you're going to you're going to have a tax base that stays and remains. And we have to look at that whole thing with like housing and, having attainable housing here. Statistically, my daughter won't be able to afford to live here when she's done with school, right? And that's an issue, but if there's so much that can be done in that like Sudley corridor area, that's an unpolished gem. I can see it, right? But yeah, so some of the things that differ. So yeah, it's that on really on education,
hmm
right? And
Yeah, and that
I,
agreement, as you said, that educate that revenue sharing agreement,
yep,
is where the Board of Supervisors automatically transfers 57% of the county budget to the schools division, to the public schools. No questions
yes,
asked, no debate. They just write a check, and there it's over and done with. And so,
right,
and it's important to note in that too that if if the county is going to raise taxes on anything, it has to account for that transfer, so it has enough. We'll get because 57% of every dollar goes to the school division under that plan, and that plan is that revenue sharing agreement has been in place for years.
yes, yes, and yeah, if you're going to lower residential property taxes, but if you offset that by properly raising taxes on data centers, number one, and attracting other small businesses. And by the way, I'm also for repealing the meals tax. It's, if again, if you do the data centers the right way, and like I said, even 38% is just the beginning, right? You want to have your data center here and it's already here, you're going to have to pay up.
Well, Mr.
You're going to have to
Stewart,
pay up.
I appreciate your candor. I appreciate you laying it out for us, especially on data centers. I know there will be other issues
Yeah,
that come up, and I do hope that we can talk to you again as we go into the election season in November.
I'd love
Uh,
that.
so, thanks for making time, Mr. Stewart. Again, he is the Gainesville District nominee for the Democratic Party for the Prince William Board of County Supervisors. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. For all the latest news, go to potomaclocal.com, where we post what's happening from Manassas, Woodbridge, and Fredericksburg all day long. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.